There are one of the issues that is moving through is the performance pay for teachers, and I think that there is I've seen some emails from AEA that they're starting to support some of the amendments that are being put on that. Does that sound familiar?
I would say that you might be, are you talking about 28, 23?
I think that's correct.
Well, so there's a teacher and principal evaluations bill, and I guess where it stands, as far as I know, that there are amendments, and it's designed to help set the structure for what types of decisions will be made using these evaluations, including pay and compensation and, I guess, staffing implications. Where it's at is it should be locally driven, report out in 4 categories for teachers and principals: highly effective, effective, developing, and I guess not effective. I don't know exactly what it is. And then on top of that, like, I think if you're at the end of 3 years and you're not showing that you're an effective teacher yet, you have another year before you earn the due process protections. But in terms of like the pay, that's going to be a locally decided decision.
I also saw, there's no news in the budget that I have. The SBA sent out an alert, urgent need your help. 2075, which, yes, that was the consolidation / unification. It sounded like it was supposed to be heard today. I don't know what the status was. It sounds like there were, among other things, some amendments say it now removes the authority to form or operate a union high school district in 2017, which would mean that they would go away, presumably. Reduces the small school adjustment by 25%, 50%, 75%, so that sounds like it phases out. I assume that's part of a funding mechanism. And then, I'm sorry, did I say that was 2075? I just see that there's a relatively new email from Janice Palmer saying, her iPhone, that it failed in the Senate approach.
The whole bill failed, or just the amendments?
It looks like the whole bill.
Okay.
We also, there was a bill moving that would HCR 2043, which would what happened? It passed out of Senate Finance on March 15th, so last week, with a 4-2 vote, would put on the 2012 November general election ballot something that would require a legislative referenda, so something that the legislature refers to the voters, be voted on in primary elections, while voter initiatives, where voters collect signatures, would be voted on in the general election. The ASBA opposes. You have very, very low turnout. There are states that do referenda votes in their primary elections, but you generally have about 20% turnout versus maybe 50%. So independents can vote in primaries in the state, it's not presidential. So they would be able to vote. But they do tend to vote at much lower rates in primaries. Of course, they probably tend to vote lower overall, but I think that's why there were some concerns there. Plus, it separates out what the legislature, you have one election where it's the things the legislature has put on the ballot, and in other words, the things that the people have put on the ballot. So they don't want the same group of people rallying to come out to vote at the same time. There have been various things on budget limits, Tabor, but I don't know that it's
Did you file 2405, the bonding bill?
I did, and that has been moving too. I just closed that page, so, but I do know that was moving, and pull that up on Easy Ledge.
And tell me if I understand it correctly, but, because I think it would impact us directly. I heard about it from Higley School Board member, that they passed a bond. The economy tanked, their property values sank, so now they can't sell those bonds, and they still want to sell those bonds because they have construction at the school that the legislature's not funding. And that sounds eerily familiar. We passed the bond, we sold half of them. We still have more work to do, but we don't have the bonding capacity, so this bill, if approved, would supply that capacity?
I'm not entirely certain, and I contacted Janice Palmer Friday, and they were in a staff meeting or retreat, and I have not heard back from her. I wanted that clarification as to whether or not this was something that just affected new school bonds that had passed, or if this was something that, because it seems to temporarily increase the amount of bonded indebtedness that schools can go into. But I don't know if that is something that only applies to something that's newly passed or if that's retroactive. I recall there was something in the legislature, I thought, to address that situation that we are in and that others, as you mentioned, are in. But I am not certain that if this is the bill, if this bill does that or not, but it certainly looks like it deals with that issue. And it passed in the House 41 to 19. In the Senate, it was withdrawn from the Finance Committee, which is good for its passage. The fewer committees that it's in, the better chances it has for passing. And it passed the Education Committee 5-3. It's awaiting rules, and then we go to the floor.
Okay.
So it is still very much alive.
Okay. Would you be so kind as to let us know if that actually would impact Creighton, so that as individuals, as school board members, we might take action if we see fit?
When I find out from ASBA, I will forward that to Hilda and or Dr. Boyle.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Me?
Okay, so I know we were talking about it earlier, but I thought we could put it on the record that we're noticing that Russell Pierce is running for re-election. I don't know what you call it. He's running for Senate. He's in the same district as the Senate Education Committee Chairman Rich Crandall, who's not seeking re-election. So moving next year, like, there definitely will be a new Senate Education Committee Chairman. So I think that's something we should pay attention to, and if we are in a position to influence, we should do so. So we get someone good. Anything else, legislative or political? Okay, thank you. Future agenda items. We're gonna review our policy. I guess maybe we need to review it and see if we want to put it on an agenda.
I already filled out the thing on it.
Perfect. Great. Motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.